Hi family! So this is our video on vegan crab cakes or artichoke patties. That's what we're making. So over here we have, we have artichoke hearts, and I just bought the big Kirkland can. These are artichoke hearts that have been rinsed and squeezed. So I've squeezed all of the seasoning and all that stuff out of it. And here's the juice that's left over because we're going to use just a little bit of that to help flavor the artichokes. So first step is that we needed some shallots. So I chopped up I chopped up a large section of a shallot, and I'm going to put that here in my bowl because everything we're going to put together will be in our bowl here. Okay, those are our shallots. Then we're going to chop our artichoke hearts. And it doesn't have to be a fine chop. It can be a rough chop. It can be a fine chop, whatever. Uh-oh, they slide. So chop it upside down. So you want the bottom of the artichoke up because they're going to tear some. But you want it to kind of be a little recognizable, but you still want it chopped up fine enough because it's supposed to be represented like a crab, flaky like crab. So once you cut the bottom like this, once you cut the bottom off the artichoke heart, it starts to flake off. Kind of like crab, but whatever. Kind of sort of in a roundabout way, we could say. And then I'm just going to cut up some of the larger pieces so that they're not so big in the preparation or in the mixture. Because we're going to mix all this together. And I have all my ingredients on the counter. I'll go through them one by one. So that we can see what everything looks like. And I also want to shout out the people whose video I'm following, but I don't know their name. So I will add it.
Link will be in the bio.
Oh, yeah, okay. I don't know how to do that yet, but okay. I'm going to put in there who the people are in some way, though. You're going to find out who they are. And watch your fingers, guys, because I have a cutesy little pretty colored knife here, and this thing will slice your finger off before you know you've been cut. So if you have a good knife, make sure you use it, but just be super duper careful because these slide. So as you're cutting it, you want to make sure that your pieces are separate. Because again, these are artichoke hearts and they do slide. Because the external portion of the heart is a little bit rougher in texture, but if you're chewing it and as you're putting it in this dish, it won't be too chewy or hard or difficult to chew. Okay, so I'm going to finish cutting these up and we'll come right back. Okay guys, got all my artichokes chopped up. This is what they look like. They're all finely chopped and looking pretty good there. My rinsed. I had to change containers because it's going to be a lot more than what I anticipated. So I'm going to put the artichoke hearts in with the onions. I'll probably chop a few more onions next time just to make sure that I have a good enough ratio. This recipe also calls for celery because some people put celery in their crab cakes. I didn't. I didn't do it the first time, so I'm not going to do anything different this time. You're welcome to put artichoke hearts in yours if you choose to.
You mean celery?
I mean, put celery in it, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, there you go.
Into our artichoke, we want it to taste like seafood, so we're going to use the nori komi furikake.
Hold on, wait, let me get that.
Oh, gotta flip it.
All right, there you go. Yeah.
There. And so I'm just going to go a little, let me let you see here.
Thank you.
So we're going to go a little heavy on this because we want it to taste like seafood. There's sesame seeds in here and seaweed. Then we also want to put in a little bit of lemon juice. The lemon juice is half a teaspoon.
But we don't measure around here.
We don't measure that good, so that is it.
Okay.
Then we're going to go with our Old Bay, because we really want this to be a real, we want it to have a bit of a kick. So we're going to go in with a little Old Bay, probably a tablespoon and a half or so. Go in with all my regular seasonings. I got some pepper, a zhuzh of the pepper there. We got some onion powder. I know we have shallots, but I like onion. Uh-oh. There we go. Getting down to the bottom. She on her tippy toes, y'all. And we're going to go with the garlic powder. Holes are pretty big, so I'm just going to sprinkle a little generously there. Go with a little bit of garlic salt. Then we have our New Orleans Cajun seasoning. I use almost all the same seasonings on most things. The holes are pretty big, so be careful with that. I'm not using paprika because I'm not as concerned about the color on the center, because I think the other items are going to give us what we need there. And then with the smoked sea salt, I'm going to go with 3 cracks of that. And then, give me a fork. Then we're going to mix it all up. I like to taste my things. So we're going to mix this all up. We still have some more items to put in. So it does look a little dry, but like I said, we have other things that are going to go in here. Okay. That tastes pretty good. Then we're going to add in some coconut sugar. We don't need a whole lot of coconut sugar. About 2 teaspoons. So I'm just going to do a real quick shake. Coconut sugar, and that's it. That's all the coconut sugar that's going in there. Okay. Coconut sugar acts like brown sugar, meaning that it caramelizes the same way. It colors your food the same way. So coconut sugar is a really good substitute if you're needing a better replacement for brown sugar. And then we go here with our, we're going to take a little bit of our liquid that the artichokes came in, and we're just going to splash a tablespoon or so, or 2 tablespoons rather, and that's it. We don't need a whole lot of that. Then we're going to do a 1/2 cup of chickpea flour. I say 1/2 cup because that's what the recipe calls for, but I don't think I've matched the recipe very much in this whole process. But chickpea flour, I had a difficult time finding it in the store.
Where'd you find it?
I went on Amazon. Give me a cup, measuring cup. Y'all, it's late. It's
so
super
late.
Okay, so I just need 1/2 cup of chickpea flour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour my chickpea flour. There's a really fine flour here, so I'm going to pour it into my measuring cup because I might not need all of it depending on the texture that I get. So I'm going to go in with 1/2 of the 1/2 because I poured in 1/2 cup, and I can't taste it after I put the chickpea flour in there because it's gross. So you want to make sure that if you're like me and you want to taste your food, make sure you taste it before you put this chickpea flour in here, because it's gonna make you feel a way about your food, because it's not good. It is not a tasty move at all. So now, if you are one who likes things to marinate, you can very easily just put this in the refrigerator and let it get chilled. Let all the seasonings and everything come together if you feel like you need to do that. First off, we don't have that kind of time.
Okay, because it's like midnight.
And secondly, we don't really need to right now, right? So what we're going to do now is after we put the chickpea flour in here, now we're going to make our dredge. And what our dredge is that it's going to be a milk. And then we're going to have some chickpea flour in it, add some more chickpea flour to some breadcrumbs. And actually, I think I told an untruth. I'm going to go ahead and add some paprika into this mixture. So I have some panko breadcrumbs. Super easy. They're all over the place. You can get those. And then I'm just going to pour my breadcrumbs in here with my chickpea flour. I'm going to grab a little paprika, because that's going to help to color it. The breadcrumbs are going to help to color it too. The paprika is going to help even more. Because we want this to be an authentic looking artichoke patty, aka crab cake. So I break up the breadcrumbs just a little bit more, just so that it mixes well with the chickpea flour. Sometimes when the breadcrumbs are really big pieces, they're going to give you a good crunch. It's going to give you a good coating, but it won't mix well with any other seasonings or things that you put in here. So I don't add any more seasoning to my breading beyond the, oh, did you see that? Yeah, I meant that. The only other seasoning I add to this with the paprika is my smoked sea salt. Just to make sure that my breadcrumbs have some kind of flavor to them. And even now when you look, the paprika is mixed in. It didn't just fall down to the bottom as it normally would with breadcrumbs. They're all mixed in here. So you see my breadcrumbs aren't as white as they were. So the chickpea flour and the breadcrumbs are all mixed in here together. I'm going to give us a quick little grinder of the smoked sea salt. Now my granules on this sea salt are pretty large, so they're not going to dissolve. They're not going to melt away. So you'll get some real good flavors with the sea salt and the paprika on this, what that is? Crab cake. Artichoke patty.
All that.
All of that. All of the above. So now I'm going to grab another container for our milk. Because you need something wet to put with it. Okay?
Okay.
Here we go. We have our milk. I put it into a flattened container. And then, come on this side of me. And then here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go make some room on this side. So we're going to have we're going to make our patty. And then we're going to make our patty. We're going to put it in the milk, and then we're going to put it into our breadcrumbs. So we want the patties to be kind of thick, because that's the way an artichoke patty should look. So I should be able to make about 6 patties out of this. So I'm just going to take it into my hands, form it into a fat little patty.
Like so, like that.
Like so, like that.
Like him.
Then it's going to go into the milk. And then into our breadcrumbs. So you should have a wet hand and a dry hand. I've already messed up the plan. So right hand is going to be my wet hand. Left hand is going to be my dry hand. So now I can push the breadcrumbs around the patty. I already have my grease on the stove. My cooking oil, my grapeseed oil ready to go. And here we have a patty. One of the benefits of putting this in the fridge is to allow the mixture to kind of firm up a little bit so you can turn it into a patty more easily without it being too loose and too weak. Nonetheless, we are good. So here comes our second patty. And then I just use the fork to form it into the patty in my hand. This is into my wet. Then I'm going to turn it over. Then into my breadcrumbs. And I'll use my dry fingertips to bring it up over. So you all, sometimes dishes can be a little messy and you have to just be prepared for them. So I'm going to finish breading these and then we'll come back when we're ready to put them into the fry. Alrighty guys, we have our last patty going into the milk and then into our breadcrumbs. Got a total of 6 patties, just like we planned. You can do more or less depending on the size of the patty. I decided to go with a dinner size portion so that we'll all get 2. And so that way, make a little rice or some veggies to go on the side alongside of this, and you got yourself a pretty good dinner. And I'm just adding a few more breadcrumbs to make sure that it all gets coated really well, so that when we get ready to go in for the fry, it holds up. Alright? Alright, here we go, putting the patties in the fry. I use a spatula to pick them up off of the cutting board because I don't want to lose any of that breading on the bottom. My heat is at a medium temperature because these are breadcrumbs, and you want to make sure as you go that you don't put them in grease that's so cool that the breadcrumbs float off. You're going to have some loss on the breadcrumbs. You're going to lose some of them, but that's okay. I'm going to hold with these 4, and then I'll fry the last 2 after we're done. That'll go back there. So these only really need to fry until they're golden brown on both sides. Probably 3 to 4 minutes, if that. It might not even be 3 minutes, depending on how thick your patties are. Now, what I tend to do is when I put the first set in, when I flip it over, then I'll press them down just a little bit. I don't want them thin, patty thin, but I want to get some, want to just make sure that they get cooked all the way through. So these are going to take a little bit more time. And you notice I don't have a lot of floating breadcrumbs around, which means my temperature was just right for the breadcrumbs. So we're going to let these cook, and then we'll come back when it's time to flip them. Alrighty, we are ready to start flipping, and as you can see, one has already been flipped over and it's pretty crispy looking. Now, the thinner these patties are, the more crispy they'll be toward the center, but that is not really what you want. You want it to be crispy on the outside, and then you want to have a moist texture on the inside. Now, I told you about the chickpea flour, and it tastes a little weird. The goal is to make sure that it's cooked through the center. So I just use a fork to hold down the top portion so that as I'm flipping it, I don't drop all my breadcrumbs in the grease from that top half. Then I press. And then I press a little bit just to make sure that all of my patty is cooked through. It's not pancake flat, but it is pressing it down a little bit flatter. Now this one is pretty crispy on the top. Middle might still be a little we can flip them one more time. So if you feel like when you flip them, your texture isn't quite where you want it, you can flip it over one more time and you'll be fine. So that was just a couple minutes there, or three to 4 minutes. And so we'll let these cook and come back when it's time to take them out. Okay, folks, we have done a final flip on our artichoke patties. I like mine a little crispier on the outside, so I let these cook a little bit longer. So that's what our patties look like. My little baby patty here overcooked just a tad, but that's okay. I'll eat that one. And then we're going to go in with our last two patties. Alrighty, so that is our video on making artichoke patties. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you'll enjoy making your own patty. Bye, family.